careful when you try to humble someone. You might just walk away humbled. Surely a labor union would not bully one of their own employees. They stand up for workers' rights. These folks tried to bury me. They did not know I was a seed. They had no clue. Workplace bullying is bad.
Workplace bullying includes repeated health-harming mistreatment by one or more employees.
Treat your people better, man. Treat your people like you want to be treated. Treat your people like you want them to treat your stakeholders.
This is going to take that cordwainer energy, if you know what I mean.
They wouldn't tolerate workplace bullying, yet they bullied me and my staff for years. Surely a labor union wouldn't falsify documents. Nah, they wouldn't do that. The reason why I enjoyed in my service to this union was because of two teachers that I can remember that stood up for me, noticed something, and tried to do something about it. That was Miss Jackson, my 6th grade teacher, Miss Watson, my 2nd grade teacher. Don't be like these idiots. Be an organization of integrity. Be an organization of value. Commit to your mission and go forward with it.
Labor unions exist to give workers a collective voice.
I negotiated their labor contracts, you know, the working conditions, their wages, all of that I negotiated. And I got them the highest raise they've ever seen in 11 years. I was pretty proud of that. I remember that night, I went home with my kids. They were happy to see me. I told them, you know, hey, we got an agreement. Long nights are over. I'll be home with y'all. And they were so happy. They wanted to celebrate me. And I said, you know what? Let's celebrate for the folks that are going to get the good news tomorrow, that they're going to get the highest wage increase that they've seen in 11 years. I was proud of that. My kids were proud of that. The thing about me is I've been an advocate my whole life. I was advocating in Mississippi as a teenager for rights, justice, equality. And I kept doing it all the way up to where I am now.
To advocate for fair wages, safe working conditions, and respect on the job.
Surely a labor union wouldn't discriminate based on age, race, or physical health. No. So before I get out of here and go mow my lawn and my neighbor's lawn, I just got my new tractor, so I'll mow the county's lawn right now. But I want to tell you about this place of employment I was at. It was the public school union, and I was the executive director of 4 or 5 of their organizations. You know, I was giving everything to them because the way I lead is my leadership style is to make you better. That's all it is. I could care less if you go to another job. If I made you a little better, then I have done my job, right? That's how I live with it. But I showed up every day, despite all the backstabbing, the lies, every good leader knows when to leave. And usually that's when you're unable to lead or you're unable to follow. False allegations, the sexual connotations. Who does that to an employee? Like, you are sexually harassing people. Do you know that? Do you know that it is sexual harassment to make sexual jokes to an employee? You do now. That's a good thing. So they just didn't know that I had done so much to keep them in a good spot. I wasn't doing it for that board. My employees know, my former employees, they know it had nothing to do with that board. It had to do with my employees and the people that were members of that union. That was why I was there, because those boards, not all of them. There's some really good folks that were on that board. But unfortunately, just like any nonprofit board, you can have the cream of the crop, but when you have these toxic, self-serving, I'm only here to get ahead, and a big cash grab, when you got them people on a board, man, they will sink a ship faster than nobody's business. If you're a board member and you got other board members with you that you know, not that you assume, don't make assumptions like that, because the assumptions can hurt somebody, like they did with me. But if you know someone's ethically bankrupt, morally corrupt, and lacks integrity, it is your job to get them out of your mission to get them away from the organization because they are doing nothing but harming the mission. And that harm goes deep and it goes long. You know what I mean? Surely a labor union wouldn't encourage people to gang stalk one of their employees. Keep my name out your mouth from now on. These clowns didn't even realize that I was saving them money, getting money that was being hidden. I made them right with the state because they were in non-compliance all the time. And for them, their approach was, no one's gonna find out. I left because I got tired of trying to teach grown men and women how to be ethical, how to have morals, how to actually run a business that's successful for the people who pay for the business. I got tired of being in the room with these people because they were so egregious. I've seen them do things to each other that no adult should do. Now, I didn't burn out because of the workload. Yes, I was running 5 small businesses at once as an executive director. It wasn't the workload. Nah, that's not what burnt me out. What burnt me out was the gossip, the hatred, the gaslighting, the bullying, the abuse burnt me out. The harassment burnt me out.
But when employers cross the line, that's where labor violations come in.
The intimidation burnt me out. The game playing with a business and with people's lives burnt me out. I got burned out watching you try to destroy my employees. I got burned out from trying to keep you from making stupid, illogical, emotional decisions. But let me tell you why I worked so hard for them. I was putting in, at times, 60, 70 hours a week, taking time away from my family. I left when my advice to them, which was legally sound, and don't try to say, oh, ain't practicing law. Shut the hell up. I'm not practicing law without a license. It's not even like that. What it is y'all were doing illegal things. And I kept telling you, that's illegal. And even when you weren't doing illegal things, you were doing things against the policy, which the policy serves its members. Please keep your eyes on your own paper. It's quite funny. I would watch these peasants go to the employer and jump up and down about workplace bullying and harassment, intimidation, discrimination, and unfair evaluations, and all these things that they would accuse the employer of and then scream about how unjust it is and how wrong it is and how they have legal standing to now challenge them and really try to make the employer feel like they were so terrible for allowing this to go on.
These can look like refusing to pay overtime, forcing people to work off the clock, ignoring safety rules, or retaliating against workers who speak up.
And a lot of times we'd investigate. If it was a problem, they'd fix it. Sometimes they weren't even doing it. But these folks would literally dog out the employer. And then I'd watch them the very same day, same night, go do the same exact things to their employees. The same intimidation that they claimed that they were against. The same narcissistic bullying that they said they were so opposed to. The same harassment, right? This is a little lesson in nonprofits if you didn't know. The board acts for the members, the stakeholders, if you will. The actual authority is the organization, the entity. That's the person that the board's supposed to protect as well as the stakeholders. These people weren't doing that. They were just getting money. I caught a bunch of them. I cleaned it up. No need to drag up people who fix their situation. It's just what it is. I never really saw any good leaders. That's the crazy part. And I'm not going to call them out or anything like that. I just try to make them better, right? That's what we should do. We try to make folks better. Even in life, if someone wrongs you or they wrong an organization or they do something that is unethical, illegal, whatever it is, when that person or people make amends, when they say, I was wrong, I shouldn't have did that, take your lumps, you move on, right? But when people choose not to take their lumps, to not move on, and to just continue to sully the situation, I gotta go. I mean, public school unions got it bad enough, but y'all gonna eat yourselves from the inside out too? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense, man. No sense. Ask yourself how much time you gave out of chasing your own goals and dreams and working on yourself to trying to tear me down. How much time you commit to that? It's crazy to me. People really think they get away with stuff. You don't believe in any afterlife, do you? You don't believe in karma, huh? You just believe that all that's mumbo jumbo. So the reason I worked so hard there is because public school employees mattered. They mattered in my life. It was a public school bus driver that got me in the military and got me up out of Mississippi. When I had nothing going on in my life, that man talked to me about the Air Force and supported me through it. When I was younger and I was getting my ass beat every day and barely able to hold myself together as a child, it was the teachers that asked the questions. Working for that union really filled me up because I felt like I was giving back to those two teachers that followed us to the mall. Yep, she followed us in second grade, who was concerned that I was pissing myself in class. The thing is, when your parents don't want to take accountability for shit or don't want to get figured out because they can't handle the consequences of their actions, they just move you. So I got moved a lot. Some of y'all are my friends, you know. I was at your school, then another school, and then I back at this school, and then this school, and then over here, and I'm over there. It was all because they were trying to hide trauma. They were trying to hide the abuse, and they did a real good job at it. But remember, this is longer ago. This is before bullying became big and see something, say something. So, but that was why I worked so hard with that nonprofit, and they would rather tear it down, and I wasn't gonna let them tear it down. But once I realized that I'm working harder for these people than they're working for themselves, I was like, it's time to go. Gotta go. You ain't gonna drag me in with you. People want to be led by someone they can trust, by someone who cares about them. They want to be led by somebody with integrity, by somebody who's gonna do the right thing even when it's hard. They don't want to be led by somebody else's ego. That's why they quit. That's why they leave, and that's why they burn out. So if you're gonna keep burning out people, just get out of the game. Nobody needs to be burnt out. I'm sure they probably tried to blame all kind of shit on me. Why wouldn't they? One, incoming leader, you get to blame the past leader for not illegal shit, okay? You get to blame them for some bad decisions. That goes without saying. You should get the chance, at least for maybe 6 months, a year. A year might be too long, I don't know. But you should get to blame the past leader because you're trying to figure it all out, and this leader might have not done anything right, but you're trying to figure it out, right? So you should be able to get away with that for a little bit. But then there comes a point where you can't blame that dude or gal no more. This is your shit. Run it. Yeah, if you cannot follow a mission, if you can't be authentic, and if you're in a situation just because of your ego and you want that to be your legacy, that you took somebody out or made somebody quit or you burned this employee out and that is your claim to fame, I'm telling you, you're not going to do anything in this world that's going to make any kind of impact, that's ever going to make anybody's life better. None of that. You really think that you're going to get one over on somebody. That's what you like to do. Make you feel big and bad and powerful to tear people down, huh? They wouldn't get board members and members of the union to also participate in that bullying, that gaslighting. They wouldn't do that. Shit, I've been gone from that job years now, few years, but they still call me. I'm like, stop calling me. I had to change my number. I left them people in the best possible position I could. I even tried to find them a replacement. Yo, I gave them 6 months advance notice because I cared so much. I cared more than I should have. I learned a lesson there. Won't happen again. But they didn't. I know they didn't because they never apologized and for the horrible shit they did. And the problem is, I knew what they were doing with the money, the shadiness that they had going on. I knew all of the stupid stuff that they were doing. These unions would never tolerate discrimination, whether it's age, gender, race, they wouldn't tolerate it. But it's okay for their leadership to do that. But yet they wanted us to go in and stop the employer from doing it, which, by the way, the employer, they always made it right. Literally telling the employer they can't do it and then turn around in the same day and they doing the same exact thing that they say they against. How are you going to have success, lead? How are you going to change anything? How can your mission succeed when you are being terribly hypocritical and you really ain't about it? You really aren't for it. That's what happens when people let their ego win. Foolish. Foolish. You done made the biggest fool out of yourself. That little devil on their shoulder that says, you don't have to follow those rules. You're different. You're special. You ain't special. You're not above anyone either. You think you are, but that's a stupid thought. That's a dumb thought. You got to be able to discern between those. They know who they are. There's a few others out there, but I don't have receipts on them, so I'm only calling bullshit on the ones I got receipts on. They also traumatized me. They found, everybody picks up a little bit of my story because you can't talk to me and not know something about me. I don't hide that, but I shouldn't have to pour my trauma out to you to be treated with a little dignity and respect. But that's what you want? You wanted me to pour my trauma out to you so you knew? I think it would have gave you the satisfaction of knowing you were doing a little more digging. To be honest, this is catch me outside season. Intimidate their employees, retaliate against their employees. Or I can't even understand it. Like, I don't know how you can live in two worlds when you can say you're for something, but when nobody's looking, you are committing the same atrocity. I watch them tear people apart. And I'm tough, I'm strong. So they tried to do it to me too. And they didn't know that I'd go home and just work on myself and try to get my employees through it too. But talk about a toxic work environment. These people were just egregious. It was over the top. They should never be given leadership again, ever. They are dangerous. They are why people don't want to work, let's be clear. And they run a freaking union. That don't make no damn sense. Somebody should have mushed you in the face a long time ago. I guess they left it for me to do. What terrifies me is that some of these people are around children every day, and they have very little moral or ethical standards. Literally, they will do anything for power, anything for clout, anything to get ahead. And these are the folks that are teaching our children? What are you doing to them kids? That's what I'm concerned about. Because if you got the ability to be so nasty to people, to have such vile attitude and just who you are as a person, just empty inside, what are you teaching these kids? That's the scary part. They claim to be against age discrimination, yet it's okay for the labor union boards to discriminate on age.
70% of bullies are in positions of authority. That's your managers, your executives, your board members.
And just know, I do have a law degree. Everybody keeps forgetting that somehow. And defamation, that requires a statement to be false. Now, if you think my statements are false, you are welcome to get legal counsel and bring a claim. But just understand that the burden of proof shall fall upon you to prove that that statement is false. And I myself will call witnesses and show emails. I'm no dummy. I was 5 moves ahead. I'm about 8 now, and you know that. Oh no, I sunk your battleship. Oh no. You might as well run off into the night with your tail tucked. That's what you should do. That's what I would do if I was you. Y'all clowns. Clowns. Catch me outside.